My name's Maisie James and I'm introducing our app CityTrek. I worked on the front end with Sara building out the React components and the structure of the app. So to explain what CityTrek does, it designs a bespoke walking tour of the city based on your preferences and your mobility level. So say you're visiting a city for the first time or a city that you don't know very well. When planning your day, you usually have to gather information from different places, like Google to see what the main attractions are, and then Maps to get from A to B, and maybe TripAdvisor to find somewhere to eat. CityTrek brings it all together in one user-friendly format. So to save you all of that research and save you from some of the tyranny of choice, it designs the whole walking tour for you. So to tell you about our development practices, first of all, we built a basic mock-up of the app using Mock+, so that we could discuss together how we wanted the app to look and function and what kind of components we'd need to create. And then we used Trello to assign and keep track of different tasks, and we scheduled regular video calls to update the team, to do some mob programming and share any issues that we had. We also kept in touch every day on WhatsApp. So we built the app with React. We used Google Maps API for the map and directions functions. We used Postman to access the database built by the backend, Axios to handle the HTTP requests and the data, and we used Heroku to deploy the app. So just to give you a brief demo of the app, this is our homepage. We built it as a mobile-first app. You can choose your city. Say you want to go to Glasgow and you want to do a moderate amount of walking. You want to do some eating and drinking. You're looking for restaurants and you like to eat, say, Indian food, and you'd also like to see some museums and galleries. You can click on the Plan My Day button, and there is your full route. So we can see the map, we can see our stops, where we're going, where we're eating, the total distance walked, and the estimated time of the walk. And now we can click on the Begin button, and we get our start with our starting address and our next stop, and detailed instructions on how to get there. So once we've finished in one place, we can then click the next button to get the next part of our route, and so on. And we can click on full directions to get back to our main route. So that's about the size of it, and I'm now going to hand you over to Sara to talk you through the code, how we use the Google APIs, and some of the development challenges that we had.
Hi, I'm Sara. I'm going to talk about some of the difficulties we had on the front end. As Maisie showed, our app is designed so that certain components render after the user clicks a checkbox. The home component conditionally renders the eat drink form as well as the attractions form, depending on the state of eating, drinking, and attractions. Similarly, the cuisine form conditionally renders within the eat drink form. React Google Maps API library. Documentation for this library was written using class components. I was used to writing functional components with hooks in React. I spent time comparing this library's documentation with Google API's documentation, as well as YouTube tutorials to render both a route and step-by-step directions. The Google Map component and markers components within it make a call to Google Maps API and renders the map with the specific markers. We had difficulty setting the query parameters that are sent to the backend. We wanted them to be in an object that contained arrays, but we couldn't use the form's onSubmit function. We had to set the initial state of each checkbox, at each change update the state, and then set an array of each checkbox type to be sent to the backend. Problems we encountered as a team. Merge conflicts in GitHub. This was our first large-scale team project on the course. We had many merge difficulties from our local repos to our remote repos on GitHub. We each had our own local branches, and we eventually learned how to fix these conflicts. Front-end to back-end communication. We were mainly working in two teams of two, one on the front end and one on the back end. We occasionally stepped in to give input or act as another pair of eyes, but we were generally separated into two teams. Because of this, we sometimes had code that was formatted in a slightly different way between the front end and the back end. However, we were able to fix these errors quite quickly and able to move forward. Deployment. So none of us have ever deployed a full stack app before. After doing research between Heroku, Netlify, and AWS, we decided to host the front end and back end separately. We decided to host the front end on Heroku.
So I'm Ross McNabb, and I was part of the back-end team. So I'm just going to talk you through a couple of slides on what we did. So first of all, we have the different technologies that we utilised. So first off, we have the AWS server, which is where we hosted our database. We have MySQL, which is what we utilise for our database. The reason for that is just because I did look into MongoDB, but considering that we also already had experience as a team within SQL because of the course, and also I've utilised it previously in my job, so we might as well utilise those skills and just stick to what we know and not overcomplicate things. And then finally, we have Node.js and Express. The usability of Node.js and Express is well known, and it just made everything a lot easier to just stick to those two technologies. So going into the current structure of the database and how we decided to structure it, we have two main tables. So we have attractions and eating and drinking. So the key things about these is we decided to structure it in this way because it made the query pull a lot easier. For example, we could have divided it along city. However, with the multiple cities, it would be more difficult when we're then building out those queries and how they would function and be structured within the back end. So it made sense to direct it this way. And also, the more cities that you get in terms of the long term, it wouldn't be as scalable, a lot more condensed. And also, it just makes more sense from the standpoint of the filters that are going to be applied from the front end. It goes through all of these and also will return the longitude and latitude, which is required for the Google Maps API as well. Finally, finishing onto key challenges. So the three main challenges that we had was how to host the server locally or remotely, so the database. So we decided on remotely because it meant that everyone had access to it. It was much easier. And then we had extracting the data. The data was coming in from the front end, that communication. It took a while to clean that up and make sure that it was coming through correctly. And then finally was then how to build out those queries. So because we have the multi-selects on the front end, it was a bit more complex in terms of the way we built that query and formulate it from the front end once the data was correctly extracted. And that's where the main level of complexity lay. But luckily we got to the end of it and figured it out, as Emma will take you through next.
Hi, my name's Emma. I worked on back end with Ross, and today I'm talking to you about routes. So we used Postman to help query our routes from the database. We used query params and strings to pass in a parameter we needed to use at the time. So for this example, I just used Liverpool, mobility of minimum, restaurant type, I wanted to search for a restaurant, and I wanted cuisine of Middle Eastern. And that gave me this JSON body down here. For test-driven development, we mainly used read just because we manually inputted our data into the database. We used a try and super test for the pathway route check to receive data from the database. If we had more time, we would have liked to have added a wildcard for the users, more exciting day trip for them. That would have been selected by random selections. We would have liked them to have been able to filter selections by price and ratings. We would have liked to have added events and shows as well, just to give it a bit more variety. We also would have liked to have been able to let users sign in and save any routes as well for future trips. We'd like just to say thank you to everyone at Manchester Code for their support. The tutors were amazing, very supportive of our development. And yeah, thank you for watching.